Hi, I'm Ashton Silva, and this is Cinematic, where I am going to introduce myself as a cinematographer and short filmmaker. I brought my latest short film. It's called Hello Detective, and I hope you enjoy it. And welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that short film. That was the latest thing I shot this past weekend. And this show is basically just trying to show off different cinematography and the greats and analyze what they do and how we can improve upon what they have done in the past. So next week I will bring in a different cinematographer or director and analyze their style. And hopefully you enjoy that and come back and watch some great art. Thank you.
Hello there! My name is Brody Liberty, and I'm coming at you live from the White Void in the basement of NWTC. They've given me this time to talk about consoles. What is it specifically about consoles? I never gave them that information. They don't need that information. This show is meant to just be mostly me blabbering for like 10 minutes. So there will be stalling. and a lot of it. I'm a gamer, and consoles have done a lot for me. Nowadays, I play PC just simply because I have like 500 games on it, but I still love my consoles and I still collect them and games for them, and I'll play them occasionally. So that's what this show is about, is me just talking about interesting things with consoles. I'm probably just only going to do an episode. So far, this episode will be about the PlayStation 2, but the other episodes will I'll have probably a GameCube one, a Wii U one, and then the Switch maybe? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But this episode, as I said, was about the PlayStation 2, which was released by Sony Computer Entertainment on October 26th in the year 2000 in North America specifically. It was then in production between the time of January 4th, it was then in production until January 4th, 2013, when Sony discontinued making the console. It sold over 155 million units and was succeeded by the PlayStation 3. It has, according to Wikipedia, 4,379 games, but I bet those are all the registered ones. I'm sure there's some other companies that have made games for the PlayStation 2. I couldn't find a direct source leading to like an award given to it. I found more of awards given to the games, but I have seen it said that the PlayStation 2 is considered to be one of the most successful of the 6th generation of consoles. So it beat out the GameCube and the original Xbox in sales. But yeah, this console has gained a special place in my heart, as it is the first console I ever played on, and it's where I gained my love and appreciation of video games. When I was 2, my father had a PS2 that he played on his days off with me just sitting in his lap, watching intently. Eventually, as I got on in age, I was allowed to play the PS2 myself, and even got my own PS2 with my brother from our uncle, who gave it to us after he moved away. It was a big brick one, and me and my brother loved playing it. While we weren't allowed to play the adult games of Grand Theft Auto, we still got to play, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Lego Batman, ATV Off-Road Fury, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. What more could a child really need? This just works for me as a child. It was amazing until the laser on the PlayStation eventually just died. We had to sell a bunch of games to buy a new one. But after that, we still had some of the best nights of our lives. Not saying it's like the end-all be-all, but it was fun. I had a lot of fun playing it until eventually we did get ourselves a PlayStation 3, and we started to play that. Still same titles, kind of. There wasn't SpongeBob anymore, but there was, Lego Star Wars 3. It was really weird naming for that one. Played Just Cause 2 on the PlayStation 3. That was fun. And Little Big Planet, the first Little Big Planet. But yeah, I just love the PlayStation simply because especially with the PlayStation 2, when you boot it up and if you don't have a game in it, even if you do have a game in it, it'll load up that loading screen for it. And it's such a nostalgic thing for me nowadays that whenever I hear it, it's just kind of like, yes. And it's like nothing. It's a black void with like these pillars in it. And it's just such a wonderful thing to me, and I don't know why. But yeah, I have had some troubles with them before, especially the controllers. I don't know if it's their design or if it's just I was a 10-year-old and I have butterfingers, but I have found the controllers will die very, very quickly. I've had some where the buttons stopped working, one where the rumble just stopped working, but it felt like a brick was in there for some reason. I've had the cord get like destroyed, and I even had a Bluetooth one that just refused to work one day. That was fun. So I had to go back to a corded one, and I had to get an extension cord on that corded one because it was so short. I couldn't sit on the couch, and the floor's uncomfy. I I don't know why I said I mean. But yeah, it's. I did also have some games break. Most of them due to age, but I had one another SpongeBob game for some reason. SpongeBob Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. I didn't play it as much as I did this one, but it was destroyed by my ravenous sister, who just one day while I was at school popped it out of the PS2 and then just snapped it in half for some reason, and then left it on the shelf, which was even worse of an insult. But yeah, that game took me a good couple of years to get back because one, I didn't have an income. Two, it's a SpongeBob game, and like game stores don't sell that. I eventually was able to find one in town, like a used game store, and I was able to get it from them. And then I played it, and it was like, I waited 10 years for this. Not that it's a bad game, but it's not that great, graphics and story-wise. But that's beside the point. I also have, especially with this game, I had a silly little quirk with it. So if these get scratches and stuff, they'll stop working or they'll have problems occur with them. And with this game, I had the special problem of I couldn't play a section. A scratch had ended up in a very specific spot so that an entire section of the game called Kelp Forest, I just couldn't play. Every time I walked into it, it would give me the loading screen and it would never advance. And it was really weird. Luckily, you don't need it to beat the game, but you know, I never was able to beat the game in the first place, so it didn't matter. I did eventually, like a couple of years ago, the same game store that I got the Flying Dutchman from, I took it there. They had a disc repairer, and I was able to repair the game, and another game of mine, which was Star Wars Battlefront 2. Unlike it with the SpongeBob game, though, the Star Wars Battlefront 2 problem was only in tutorial, and specifically the space tutorial. And you don't play the space tutorial, it's just a video, but for some reason the video would play normally for like the first second, and then the audio would loop upon itself, but it would continue to get louder as it looped, and by the time you finished the video, it was just a loud mess of noises and didn't make any sense. So that was fun. Got that fixed, thankfully. But yeah, it's just weird. It's really weird. These they don't like being scratched and stuff. I mean, nowadays it's still the same thing. It's like you don't want it to get scratched or it'll probably stop working. But it's definitely, I felt it back in these days when it was, you know, a little kid, me, just kind of messing around with them. They get scratches or they get just kind of dirty because you don't put them away in their case. This is a PSA, put your games away in their cases. I know it takes time, but literally it will save you the money of having to go buy a new game or trying to hunt down an old game. Just put it in the case. It's not that hard. Same with movies, but you know, I've had no movies break in my days and ages. But I've had several games just stop working because they're just scratched up. And while I did have the luckiness of having these games be able to be fixed with a resurfacer, other games it's just like, and if you don't have someone with a resurfacer in the area, because they're a very particular machine, they do a thing where they kind of sand it. They sand it and like they rip away the part where it's scratched so that it's level with everything else. Because the reason it can't read it is because it's kind of like a weird gap in the information. So the laser, while it's trying to read that, it trips over that, so it just doesn't read it. And so it just keeps spinning, and just that's why it wouldn't load or anything, or it would do a weird looping glitch, because it's like, I'm missing this information, so here's this instead. Like, it's just kind of like, I guess I'm gonna do this now. But yeah, the PlayStation 2, to wrap things up here, it's my childhood system. I played other systems, and we'll get to those. Only the one, really, in later episodes. But this one is my childhood. And sometimes, even though I do play PC mostly, sometimes I wish I could just shove this adapter thing into my PC and play some games on there. Because I do have some of my old PlayStation games on the computer now, and I'm terrible at them. I wasn't good at them as a kid anyways, but I'm worse now. It's weird. Yeah, thanks for watching.
Movies. I am your host, the Jimmer. On this program, I will be covering pre-selected movies, whether it be something new at the theater, streaming, or just something I pull off the shelf that's available on home release. Really whatever I feel like, because we live in an era where you can watch movies at any time, anywhere. So, this week I watched Dune. I actually went to a theater to see this, but it's also available on HBO Max. As you saw in that introduction, most people when they hear Dune, they probably think about a desert and giant worms. But the actual description for the film is Paul Atreides, a brilliant and gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe, Arrakis, to ensure the future of his family and his people. However, as malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence, called spice, only those who can conquer their own fear will survive. So the first thing you should know about this movie is that it's not going to be your standard adventure movie if you're expecting along the lines of Star Wars or even a Marvel movie. There are definitely some high action set pieces in the film, two in particular, but the main focus of the film is this huge world, or universe really, that Frank Herbert, the author of the original book, created. You can see this, for example, in specifically the wardrobe of each individual group in the movie. You got the family of Atreides, who have this very simple kind of medieval royal attire to them. You see them and you immediately recognize that they're kind of an older family of traditions, classical views of honor, definitely compared to the other houses and social orders. You also have the Bene Gesserit, which is a group comprised completely of women, but their attire is very reminiscent of religious clothing, so immediately you see them and you recognize them as the dominant religious group of this universe. You also have the Harkonnen, who are very industrialized and live heavily in technology. You can also see this very clearly on their planet when you visit it. Their leader in particular even has these things stuck in his back to help him move because he's such a giant blob. Probably leads to the most unintentional funny scene where you see him floating around. But the other interesting thing is how it depicts combat. So they actually have force fields in this universe, and they use regular swords and daggers, not any fancy lightsabers or fancy weapons like that. It's just normal medieval swords. But the movie does a great job of showing how this combat system works, with Paul training under his family military advisor, played by Josh Brolin. You just see him briefly touch a sword, which he swings real quick, and the force field reflects it, giving off this blue light. And then he swings it real slow, and he can grab it, and there's a red kind of field around him. So you understand visually, all right, here's how the combat system works. But then there's some exposition dumps in the movie as well. The movie does a hollow book, is what they call it, to kind of explain the Fremen, which are the local inhabitants of Arrakis and their cultures. There is also an exposition similar to Fellowship of the Ring, where it gives a brief rundown of the politics and what's happening in the world before the film starts, which I actually really appreciated. Because you jump into the book and it kind of skips all that. So aside from the world building, the basic story is one that you've seen before. It's the typical hero journey. This is, I'm not complaining about that, of course. A movie like Dune is very much trying to immerse you in this world that it's created, but you still need some sort of plot line to carry you through the movie. So just having something that every audience member can follow along with, which, again, this story has been seen in many other movies, will keep you certainly engaged in the world of Dune. So another thing that I should bring up is that the filmmakers mentioned on talk shows and promotional materials for like YouTube and such is that this is a part one, which when you go to the movie, it actually opens with the title Dune Part 1, but for some reason they don't want to put this on the posters or in the trailers, which has certainly confused some people. There are some reviews that say it ends abruptly because of this, and I would actually disagree. It doesn't end with everything being resolved, of course, and there are some plot lines that it leaves open. But there is, I feel, at least one story that has a beginning, middle, and end, and that's Atreides' father and him trying to essentially run the world of Arrakis for the government, even though he kind of feels that there's no real end goal for him. And the movie does have an epilogue that leads into part 2, and that's probably why they think it ends abruptly. So it's actually been a while since I read the book. This is the actual book here. It's a hard book to read. It's massive, you can see it. And I mean, it even has appendices in it because it's just ridiculous how much the author of this book put into this world he created again. So if you're into world building, you'll certainly love the book. So definitely check that out then. You'll also really enjoy the movie too. The movie does a great job of explaining most of the stuff, leaving out some things that sure in the book builds out the world, but is not necessary for the full-on film. So I feel a wider audience will really enjoy this movie as well. As I said earlier, this is available in theater and on HBO Max. If you want to go see the movie, though, I would highly recommend you see it in a theater, partially for the big screen and the spectacle. They really utilize that whole screen for you. But the real reason is the audio. If you can set up a great audio system at your home theater, great, go ahead, watch on HBO Max. But if you can, see it in the theater. Because half the experience for me was just these big moments of giant worms coming out of the ground, and the audio system just shakes the whole theater, and you're just blown into this world because of it. And that's what sold me on the movie. So this is the end of the show, and our goal here is to either recommend the movie or denounce it and say to avoid it. I would say if you're expecting something with quippy characters, like Marvel or even the new Star Wars movies, you will probably be disappointed. But if you're looking for just a grand sci-fi movie epic, then yes, I would highly recommend you go check this movie out, whether it be in a theater, which is my preferred method if you are going to see it, or if you have HBO Max, watch it on there. And we'll see you next time.